Tommy Heinsohn joins me here now on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Tommy?
Very good. How are you?
I am doing fine. So what is your recollection? Let's start hitting old school of that night when Havlicek stole the ball, Tommy.
Well, all I can remember is Bill Russell, after he went to take the ball out of bounds, hitting the guy wire, and the ball went over to the 76ers, and they called the timeout. And all I can remember is Russell saying, "Boy, did I screw up. Somebody get me off the hook." And sure enough, there was Johnny Havlicek, got him off the hook.
And that turned out to be your last season, correct, playing in the NBA?
That's correct, yep.
And you took on the Lakers to win that championship. And now here we are in the here and now, Tommy. Where does this what makes this Celtics team work based on from what you have seen from your position and seeing what's been happening over the last few years with Danny Ainge remaking this team with pretty much everybody not named Avery Bradley to get him back to the conference finals?
Well, I think these players look up at all those flags, and they recognize that the Celtics team over the years has really been a team, not one or two individuals carrying a ball club, but a team effort. And that's one of the reasons why the Celtics were able to beat like Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain. They were more individualistic, and on any given night, one of our guys could match them. So this team has caught on to the team aspect and the belief in each other, and it's a pleasure to watch because there's not an awful lot of that in sports.
Who does Isaiah Thomas remind you of, Tommy?
I've never seen anything like Isaiah Thomas. I've said this during the course of the season. There's three guys that I have used this phrase for in describing what they do, and that phrase is, "How did he do that?" And one was Russell, the other was Larry Bird, and the third one is Isaiah. I mean, Russell was not a great offensive player, but boy, he did magical things on defense. And Larry Bird outthought everybody. And this little kid is just a wonder to behold. And he's got such competitiveness that it's a pleasure to watch him. I mean, a couple of times this year, things weren't going exactly right for the ball club, and he just stops, and he puts the team on his shoulders, and he makes his move, and he changes the momentum of the game. And he really is something to watch because of his personality.
Tommy Heinsohn, Hall of Famer, long time Boston Celtics announcer, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. And yet, I think one of the most encouraging aspects of last night's Game 7 win for Celtics fans and for the Celtics is the fact that there was somebody other than Isaiah Thomas who pulled off the fourth quarter magic and put them on their shoulders, and that was Kelly Olynyk. I mean, that was a breathtaking performance, and one, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, the Celtics haven't seen off the bench since Havlicek stole the ball. What did that mean to the team last night from your perspective, Tommy?
Oh, he just became an all-star type player. I think this may really be catapulting him into an all-star type player. He's got so much talent, and he's such a nice person. Everybody thinks he's a bad guy and a dirty player and the whole bit, which is the furthest thing from the truth. And what this guy, he really doesn't want to usurp anything. He wants to play within the flow of the game. And last night he took over. When the thing was there, he was aggressive. And that's all he's ever needed to really be a top-flight player, is to be a little bit more aggressive. And he certainly was on the ball in finding a shot, taking the shot, and making something happen. So hopefully this will register and show him just how great a player he can be.
What would Red Auerbach think of Brad Stevens, Tommy?
Oh, he's a great coach. There are coaches that win this and win that, but the outstanding attribute of Stevens, as far as I'm concerned, and knowing what it takes to coach a ball club, is he's not afraid to develop players. Most coaches are afraid of their jobs, and they will not play young players for fear that those young players will introduce mistakes into the equation. He puts them in the game, and he lets them make a mistake, and he allows them to grow as players. So he is one of the few coaches that can produce wins and still develop young players.
Tommy Heinsohn joining me here for a few more minutes here on the Rich Eisen Show. You mentioned about Olynyks' reputation of being a dirty player. Obviously, the fan base rooting hardest for the team that's about to walk into Boston, into TD Garden, is the fan base that believes that with what happened with Olynyk and Kevin Love a couple of playoffs ago. What do you think the Celtics need to do to pull off what a lot of people, despite the fact that the Celtics have a better seed, thinks is impossible, and that's beating the Cavs in a 7-game series, Tommy?
Well, Cleveland took their foot off the gas pedal. Let's not kid anybody. Why they did that is beyond me, but they did, and the Celtics ended up with the top seed. They have an outstanding basketball team, and the reason they have an outstanding team is they're loaded with veteran players who are very aware of their own abilities and how they fit into the big picture. So, and they've got one of the all-time great players that's leading the charge, and he's a real basketball. He's one of the most knowledgeable basketball players. You know, they talk about basketball IQs. Mm-hmm. Well, he's got one way up there. So when you put the Celtics against them, a young basketball team, where we're really looking for like perhaps two guys who are very young players like Brown and Rozier to come in and help you to win. They don't need young players in Cleveland. They've got veterans, so that's why they'll be tough to beat.
So a couple more minutes with you here, Tommy. I'd love for you to weigh in on what a lot of people were talking about 10 days ago with Kevin Garnett sitting with Paul Pierce, Perkins, and a couple other players, Rajon Rondo, talking about how they still have a problem with the way Ray Allen left a few years ago. What did you think of that conversation, Tommy?
Well, I wasn't really in their locker room. Ray was a very important player on that basketball team, but you don't have to like all the players that you play with, although it certainly makes life easier when you're out there living each day by day with a group of people. Ray, I thought was a fabulous player, and somehow or other they ended up not on the same page, and it really revolved around how he went out of the scene here in Boston. And what happened during the last stages of his days in Boston, I believe. Ray got hurt, and he really had difficulty getting back to top form. And I think he kind of put the blame for him not succeeding on Rajon Rondo not getting him the ball. And I think he became very vocal about that in front of the other players. And I don't think it was Rajon Rondo not getting the ball. That was the problem. It was Ray not being 100%. So that's what I think is really the basic problem. He left the sour taste in the mouths of his teammates. And
I just want to hit you up real briefly, or tell me your best story on Brent Musburger, having worked with him and Dick Stockton back in the 80s. I mean, that's where, not to date myself, I got first introduced to you, Tommy Heinsohn, watching the CBS coverage of the NBA playoffs and the finals on on CBS with you and Stockton, you and Musburger. What was it like working with Musburger back in those days, Tommy?
He's a consummate pro. I mean, he would write the openings to all the final games. I mean, and he made it sound like this game was so important that the continuation of the universe was at stake. And it was such a fun thing to work with him. He's a terrific play-by-play guy. He allows a color guy to get involved, and there's a flow when you work with him.
And before I let you go, just one last thing, Tommy. You know, you and I don't know if we've ever met, but I feel like I know you. And, you know, I'm married into a New England family that loves you. I've got one of my colleagues here on the set who's from the New England area, loves you. Sometimes we're watching the games and you get so upset. We're a little concerned for you, Tommy, that you get we want to make sure you're okay, all right? Don't blow a gasket. It seems like you get a little bit so upset, all right? Just take care of yourself.
Well, all I can say is that was ridiculous.
You know what I mean? So just I know you only know one speed, to use the football phrase, but please, we just want to make sure everything's okay with you, all right, Tommy?
Everything's fine. Thank you.
Good. Enjoy the Eastern Conference Finals. Yet another Eastern Conference Finals for the Celtics. That's Tommy Heinsohn.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, download our app. Please, just if it's a memory thing, just delete other apps. You don't need those apps. This app, the Rich Eisen Show app, you need that.